Good morning and welcome back to the channel. I've been asked by quite a few people in the comments from my other videos about settings for my Nikon Z9, how I use the autofocus, how I set up the autofocus, and in particular for things like birds in flight. So what I've decided to do is I've come to Gauntlet Bird of Prey Centre. I've been to Gauntlet Bird of Prey Centre many times before, and it's a fantastic place to come and practice your field craft, come and practice your techniques of photographing birds in flight. So what I thought I would do is I'd do a bit of a review of the Gauntlet Bird of Prey Centre for you, and I would combine that with some instructional information about how I set up the Nikon Z9, what I think that the strengths of the setup that I have, what the pitfalls and the flaws are, and then hopefully that should support the many people who've asked me about it. So come along for the journey and see what I see. So initially when you come into the Bird of Prey Centre, all the animals are in enclosures, in cages, and it is possible to get some really nice portraits through those, of those. But what I tend to do, and what I find best, is if you turn your lens into manual, so it's not auto-focusing at all, and then you manually focus and you have a really wide aperture, and then you get as close to the fence as possible, and then it won't pick up the fence at all, and you can get some really nice clean portraits of some birds that you'd never get the opportunity to see. So you can probably see just behind me here, I've got a red kite, which is what we were photographing when we were up in Scotland last. And this is a really good example of how you can get portraits of birds at areas like this. You can see that you've got the mesh in front of you. So the bird needs to be further away than you are to the mesh, if that makes sense. So you need to be close to the mesh and the bird needs to be further away, and then in good light. And then if you shoot wide open, so I'm shooting at 2.8, and I'm manually focusing on the eye of the bird, it actually blurs out the cage, so you're not getting any of that cage in your shot. And it does give you opportunities for some really quite nice tight portraits. So as the day progresses, what we get is some of the eagles, predominantly the eagles, are brought out of their enclosures and put out on display, as this beautiful white-tailed sea eagle is just behind me here. And then we've also got a golden eagle out on display just to the side over there. Absolutely breathtaking to get this close to some of the most impressive birds of prey that we have within the UK. I've photographed both of these animals. I've photographed the white-tailed eagle many times on the Isle of Mull, and I've photographed golden eagles on Mull and also in the Glencoe Valley. But you never get this close to them, ever. And now they're all calling to each other. So just on our way now for the first of the shows, and the first one's at 12 o'clock, so this is where you get the opportunities to photograph some birds in flight, and and out away from all of their enclosures. So we're just going to make our way there now. I just want to talk about settings and how I used the Nikon Z9's autofocus system for what I think is probably to its strengths. Now I think a lot of people, when they got this camera, or if they've got it ordered, their expectation is that you're going to press the 3D tracking and it's going to lock onto the animal and it's never going to let go of the focus, and you're going to get all these amazing shots, because actually all the promotional videos that we saw, that's exactly what it did. And I very quickly realised that actually it does do that, just as it shows in the adverts some of the time, but in some situations there are aspects to it which initially I thought were a negative and a weakness of it, but actually it's just about understanding how this autofocus system works and how to deploy the different autofocus systems that it has available. So I use a 3-button technique. So for that, what I mean is, on the camera here, the back button, okay, so the back button here, I use that for 3D tracking. So that's the system that's, you know, been heavily publicised, and I use that with animal eye recognition. So I would say in 80% of the time when I press that back button, it locks onto the eye of the animal and it doesn't let go, and you get some absolutely fantastic shots as a result of that. But sometimes it doesn't. And if you've watched my video of the ospreys, you'll see that I got really disappointed when an osprey came in with just the perfect light and I didn't get the shot. So since then, what I've done is I've added some additions to that. Namely, on the top of the camera here, the shutter button. On the shutter button, I set that to wide area small. So if you half press the shutter button, it will use the wide area small, and that again, that gets me out of quite a lot of situations where I'm really struggling and the 3D tracking just doesn't lock on for me. And then finally, on the front of the camera, just at the bottom here, there are 3 buttons and they're all programmable. So the top button I have programmed to be single point focus, just like you would have on a DSLR. And I think flipping between these 3 different systems is what gives me the highest success rate. Okay, so the way that I'm doing the focusing now is I'm tracking on the bird with the wide angle small. So the wide area small on the shutter button, I'll focus. Once that grabs the bird, at that point I'll switch to the 3D tracking and I'll hold the 3D tracking down, and then I follow and press the button for the shot. So I'm grabbing with the wide area small, hold the 3D tracking when it picks up on it, and then dragging and taking the shot. If for whatever reason the subject is through some twigs, or the background behind the subject is quite contrasty, as we've got here, because we've got some trees in the background, sometimes that can throw the focusing off. So at that point, that's when I use my third option, which is the single point focus. Once that locks on, press the shutter button, it finds the subject, switch to 3D tracking, and you've got your shot. So it's using a combination of all 3 different methods for different opportunities to ensure that you guarantee that focus. put together this series of photographs not because they're particularly good shots of a bird in flight, but they definitely demonstrate that the 3D tracking, once it's locked on, really holds on to the subject, even when it's flying behind things that are closer to the camera, as can be seen in this final shot. This final set of photographs was really going to test the Nikon Z9's autofocus system. The bird that you can see in these photographs is a crossbreed between a peregrine falcon and a gyre falcon. The peregrine falcon is the fastest diving bird on the planet, reaching speeds up to 60 miles per hour. The gyre falcon has got some of the fastest turns and is an exceptionally agile falcon, and this breed combines the best of both birds. As you can see, despite contrasty backgrounds and lots of things that would throw an autofocus system, it stayed locked on, even when chasing the lure of the falconer. I hope that this video has helped those people who've been asking questions about the Nikon Z9 autofocus system. I think the setup that I've got there, utilising the 3 different types of autofocus, that I use the 3D tracking, I use the wide area small, and I use a single point focus, and a combination of the 3 gives me many successes at other times when I wouldn't have had success. I think the autofocus system is absolutely amazing, and I'm certainly capturing shots that I would never have captured with a DSLR. The 3D tracking in particular, and the way it holds onto the subject as it flies behind obstructions where the DSLR would have changed focus positions, means that I'm getting some really, really fantastic shots. And I hope that this video has helped you with that. A little bit shorter than my normal video, but it's something that people have been asking for, so if you've enjoyed it, please give it a like. If you've not yet subscribed, please give me a subscribe, and until next time, ta-ra.